Welcome to this orientation overview of the November 19th meeting of the Presbytery of West Virginia. I'm Susan Sharp Campbell, the Associate for Educational Ministry, and I will be sharing important information about this meeting in this video. As we meet on Zoom on the 19th, you will be able to join this meeting by computer, tablet, or phone, by audio and/or video. It is extremely important, however, that you register in advance for this meeting no later than Tuesday, November 17th, so that you will be on the list to receive the login information. This will have a link to click on and the phone number to dial in using a touch-tone phone of any sort and entering the password that will be provided with the login information. For those of you for whom this will be your first Zoom Presbytery meeting, or if you're just not very familiar with Zoom, there will be two opportunities before November 19th to learn more. The first of these will be on Sunday, November 15th at 3 p.m. The other will be Tuesday, November 17th at 7 p.m. Information on how to join these orientations will be sent by email blast on Friday, November 13th. On the 19th, you'll be able to join the meeting using the Zoom link that you will be sent earlier that week. Please note that the meeting will open at 9 a.m. and begin at 9:30. If you haven't already done so, I would encourage you to download the Advanced Presbytery Packet. It consists of 3 parts: the docket with committee reports with recommendations and information, the worship bulletin, and flyers on upcoming events in the Presbytery. After you've downloaded, please read through it or follow along this video as I go through it. Please read the entire packet, however, before the meeting to inform yourself of the work we will be about on the 19th and the ongoing work of the Presbytery. On the 19th, it would be really helpful if you're able to split your screen so that you can see people and the business, or if you aren't able to do so, if you have a second device. If you only have one device, you're encouraged to print the docket and the worship bulletin in advance of the meeting and have them on hand. You do not need to print the entire packet. As we gather on the 19th, several key people to note will be Andy Rice. He's the pastor of Oak Grove Presbyterian Church in Hillsborough and the moderator of the Presbytery this year. Ed Thompson, our general presbyter, and Maureen Wright, our stated clerk. These folks will help to ensure that our meeting runs smoothly. The docket for this meeting can be found on pages 1 and 2 of the advanced packet. Items marked with an asterisk identify orders of the day so that at those times we will move to those items even if that means we have to postpone an issue and come back later in the day. After the call to order at 9:30, the leadership team will make the recommendation that we suspend the Presbytery manual for this meeting and allow us to meet by Zoom. Because there is currently no provision in our manual for virtual meetings, while the work we do on the 19th will be important, any actions will have to be ratified, that is, confirmed at the next in-person meeting of the Presbytery. Following this, there'll be a time of introductions. We'll introduce new minister members to the Presbytery. Corresponding members will be seated. These are members of other presbyteries who are laboring within our boundaries. Others to be introduced will be visiting ministers. We'll also introduce ruling elders who are attending their first Presbytery meeting. After hearing that a quorum is present, which means 15% of ministers of word and sacrament, or 17, and 15% of our churches represented by a ruling elder, or 19 of our churches, the docket will be approved. The consent agenda will be considered next. It can be found on pages 3 and 4. Items here are those that leadership planning for this meeting identified as not likely to generate discussion, and they will be approved with one vote. However, if any one person would like the opportunity to discuss any of these items, all that person has to do is ask that it be removed, and it will be brought up under the appropriate committee report later in the meeting. Items on the consent agenda for this meeting include requests for excused absences, the reauthorization of ruling elders to preside at communion in their congregations of membership in 2021. They have previously been through a training program on communion. The reauthorization of authorized lay preachers to preside at communion in 2021. The authorization of those who have successfully completed Level 2 in the Authorized Lay Preacher Commission Pastor Preparation Program to serve as authorized lay preachers in the presbytery. Given that the sacraments course for them has been postponed until April 2021, this does not include the ability to preside at communion. The final item on the consent agenda is that the offering received at this meeting be used to support West Virginia Ministry of Advocacy and Work Camps, WVMAW. You may contribute to the offering using the Donate button on the Presbytery website or by sending a check to the Presbytery office. Please mark these November meeting offering. The items of business in the opening portion of the meeting are the appointment of temporary clerks. These are folks who will assist the moderator and clerk with monitoring the chat features of Zoom, which is how folks will be recognized to speak by the moderator. They will also tally any needed virtual votes. This is also the time of the appointment of members of the leadership team who are present to serve as the committee on bills and overtures. They will process any new business as needed. The education focus of this meeting is next. This will be led by Trey Kay, radio journalist, producer of the podcast Us and Them for West Virginia Public Radio. Following his presentation, Nellie Howard, our Resource Center Director, will introduce new books available to be checked out from the Resource Center. You may do so by emailing, calling, or texting Nellie on her cell phone. A time of worship with communion will come next. You're encouraged to print the worship bulletin, which is after all the committee reports and the evaluation form in the advance packet. You're also asked to have some form of bread or crackers and a beverage of your choice with you so that you can partake of these during the sacrament. We will be led in worship by George Lilly, ruling elder at First Presbyterian Church, Morgantown, Sharon Gearing, pastor of First Presbyterian Church, South Charleston, and Rich Cardot, pastor of the Valley Parish, which consists of Belington, Beverly, Tigard's Valley, and Mill Creek Presbyterian churches. Maggie Russ, pastor of First Presbyterian Church, Bluefield, will be leading our music. Following worship, we will move to the remainder of the business to be considered. Maureen Wright will review the virtual procedural matters that can be found on page 9 in the advance packet. These include who are the participants in this meeting, that the only ones who will be permitted into the Zoom meeting must be registered for the meeting no later than 3 days in advance of the meeting, that is November 17th, the method for establishing a quorum, how to seek recognition in order to speak, and the deadline for new business to be submitted. Please note that if during this meeting you get disconnected and try to reconnect, every effort will be made to readmit you to the meeting. On page 10, you will find the procedural matters we will also follow. These include principles of parliamentary law, courtesy to all, one item at a time, majority rule, respect the rights of the minority, justice for all and partiality for none, generally how to work and play well with others. As items are discussed, pro and con speakers will alternate, with individuals identifying the position they support. When one person has spoken on a pending question, all others wishing to speak will be heard before that person can speak again. It takes special permission for anyone to speak on the same question more than twice. Here you will also find provisions from the Presbytery's manual that guide us, including who has the ability to speak and who has the ability to speak and vote. Please note that in the final section on page 10, procedural rule number 1 differs for this meeting. Those wishing to speak will do so by using the chat feature of Zoom or using the electronic hand feature, as we will not have microphones at this meeting. If you have any questions about what this means, please be sure to join one of the orientations on November 15th or November 17th. When you are recognized by the moderator at the meeting, please share your name, church, or relationship to the presbytery. Address your questions to the moderator, and you will be muted by the host when you finish. As part of the procedural rules, you will find the limitation for debate for any particular motion is 30 minutes per main motion, with each speaker limited to 3 minutes per speech, although this is the item that must be approved by 2/3 of those voting on the 19th. As you read the packet, if you see an item that you feel called to speak to or you have a question, You may want to write your remarks out to keep you focused and able to use your time wisely. In the printed stated clerk's report on page 5, you will find information on correspondence that Maureen Wright has received and shared. You will also find here the list of churches that did not submit their 2019 session records for review at any of the 5 meetings for that purpose. At the end of Maureen's report, you'll find the rolls and registers of the Presbytery, which you're asked to review for correctness. Clerks of session will note that they can begin entering information for their statistical reports on December 4th. The next report will be from Ed Thompson, our general presbyter. It can be found on page 12 through 14. Ed's written report lifts up 3 areas of ministry we need to focus on in this new normal in which we now live. These areas are content, connection, and governance. Ed's report concludes with a listing of his activities during the months of August through October. At this point in the meeting, Doug Port, Senior Consultant with the Board of Pensions, will bring us greetings from the Board of Pensions. During this time of COVID-19, Presbytery committees continue to be about their work, albeit primarily on Zoom. In the committee reports, you'll find recommendations which the Presbytery must vote on, and/or information about the ongoing work of the committee as they carry out Presbytery's ministry and mission. The leadership team report can be found on pages 15 to 18. One of their responsibilities is to recommend to the Presbytery persons to serve on the Committee on Representation, which nominates persons for committees and offices in the Presbytery. This means that the Committee on Representation doesn't nominate its own members or its own chair. The last 2 pages of their report concerns changes to the Presbytery's manual. As this will be a first reading, we will be voting on these changes at our meeting in February 2021. You will find the rationale for these changes, which have to do with terms of service for the moderator and moderator-elect, electronic meetings, and business that needs to be addressed between Presbytery meetings. The information section of their report provides decisions made concerning possibilities with Bluestone, the recent survey concerning Presbytery programming, and a New Life congregational grant. Please note that the February 2021 meeting of the Presbytery will also be a virtual meeting rather than in person. At the time of the Stewardship Committee report, Rocky Poole, our financial administrator treasurer, will be reporting on the 3rd quarter financial reports, including budget versus actual expenses, giving by churches, Bluestone, and Friends of Bluestone. You will find all of the financial reports on pages 19 to 32. In the information section of this report, you'll find that the review of the 2019 financial information has been completed. If you would like to obtain a copy of this review, you can find information there on how to do so. The Committee on Representation will be bringing recommendations for a committee chair for 2021 and committee members who will begin their work in 2021, as well as a Synod Commissioner. While not noted in the printed report, the committee will also be nominating Mavis Grant Lilly to serve on the Synod's Permanent Judicial Commission. Please note that there will be a time of nominations from the floor. If you wish to nominate someone, you may do so, but anyone who is nominated must have agreed in advance of being elected that they will serve if elected. Following G-3.0103 in the Book of Order, this committee is responsible to advise the Presbytery regarding the implementation of principles of unity and diversity, to advocate for diversity in leadership, and to consult with the Presbytery on the employment of personnel in accordance with the principles of unity and diversity in F-1.0403. You will find in the information section of their report their summary of a recent survey of how the Presbytery is living out and addressing these concerns. You will find this report on pages 33 and 34 in the advanced packet. The Nurture Committee report can be found on page 35. Here you will find information on the work of the committee, including the approval of post-secondary loans and grants, upcoming events including toolbox courses in 2021, which begins with a toolbox course on dismantling structural racism in January. Information on Festival of Faith, where we will have Diana Butler Bass as our keynote presenter, and information on canceled events in the coming months due to COVID-19. The trustees will then be bringing a recommendation that the Presbytery guarantee a loan to Edgewood Presbyterian Church. This is for roof replacement and related repairs from the Presbyterian Investment and Loan Program. Their report on page 36 also includes information on properties of churches that have been dissolved. The Bluestone Committee report on page 37 notes that regular camping programs have been suspended through the fall and gives information as they have considered other possible ways in which camp can be used in this time of pandemic. You will also find details of the economic injury disaster loan that has been received to assist with Bluestone's expenses during this time. In addition to the committee's written report, Sarah Speck, Bluestone's program director, will be sharing information about upcoming activities. While most of the Vocation Committee's recommendations are part of the consent agenda, there will be a time to recognize those who have recently completed Level 2 of the Authorized Lay Preacher Commission Pastor Preparation Program and approved as ALPs in the Presbytery. Further, in their written report, you will find information on the ongoing work of the committee with inquirers and those in the ALP CP Preparation Program. This report is on pages 38 and 39. Jim Wilson and Rebecca Mim, our Synod Commissioners, will then be reporting on the work of the Synod. At the end of the meeting, the 2021 committee chairs and a Synod Commissioner will be installed to their work. Usually we would also install the moderator and vice moderator for 2021, but they will be attending the Moderators Conference and will be installed at the February 2021 Presbytery meeting. Following this, any new business that was submitted to Maureen Wright prior to the beginning of the report of the General Presbyter will be presented. Other reports to this meeting are only in written form and can be found on pages 41 to 49. I'll highlight some of their work here, but please read their entire reports. Just because those reports are written doesn't mean their work is any less important. Written reports include the following. The Administration Committee reports on its recent work on page 40. The Committee on Ministry report is on pages 41 to 44 and has an information section which includes approval of session moderators in churches without pastors, committee liaisons for churches in transition, approval for services of installation for 2 pastors, mentors for new pastors, approval of retirements for several pastors, approval of covenants with stated supply pastors and commission pastors and congregations in the Presbytery, transfers of minister members, waivers of rotation of officers in churches where they just don't have enough people to rotate their officers these days, and several other items. The Mission Committee report, in addition to having the recommendation for the offering at this Presbytery meeting on the consent agenda, provides information on recent sensibility grants, an update on our NERI partnership in Kenya, and an international peacemaker visit. It also encourages churches to consider several mission-related programs and opportunities. The Relations Committee report on page 46 gives an update on ministry collaboration grants with chaplains and also lifts up their work on triennial visits. The report of the administrative commissions for Lakeview Presbyterian Church and Pickens Presbyterian Church on page 47 gives an update on their progress as they look to complete their work. At the end of the report section, you will find an evaluation form. Please complete this and return it to the Presbytery office to help those who plan future Presbytery meetings. The second part of the advanced packet is the Bulletin for Worship. As I noted earlier, you will want to have this where you can see it during the meeting at the time when we gather to worship. The final information of the advanced packet is several upcoming events sponsored by the Nurture Committee. In January, there will be an Expanding Your Ministry Toolbox course on dismantling structural racism led by leaders in our denominational offices. You'll also find a flyer on all 3 of the Expanding Your Ministry Toolbox courses in 2021 so that you can mark your dates to plan to attend. These are open to all interested persons. You can register by using the forms in the packet, or you can find the forms on the Presbytery's website. As I've mentioned before, please read this packet carefully in advance of our meeting on November 19th. But as you do so, don't read it to make up your mind on how you're going to vote. But come to the meeting open to the leading of the Spirit, for we trust that God's Spirit guides us as a presbytery in our discussions and our decision making. If you have any questions or would like to speak to any recommendation, please bring them up at the appropriate time. I hope this video has been helpful to you as you prepare to attend our Zoom meeting on November 19th. I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.